Hey, curious minds, and welcome back to EverCurious. This is the channel where we dive headfirst into history's greatest mysteries. Today, we're embarking on a journey back in time, more than 1,000 years, in fact, to explore one of ancient history's most compelling questions. What happened to the Maya civilization? How could one of the world's most advanced societies, with its towering pyramids and brilliant astronomers, seemingly vanish? Why did their magnificent cities suddenly decline? And what can their incredible story teach us today? Stick around because we're about to uncover some fascinating truths. Let's go.
EverCurious, learn what you love.
Picture this. It's the classic period of the Maya, spanning roughly from AD 250 to 900, deep within the lush, tropical lowlands of what we now know as southern Mexico, Guatemala, and Belize. A great civilization is flourishing. The Maya are building sprawling cities, complete with monumental pyramids that kiss the sky and intricately carved stone monuments called stelae, covered in a complex system of hieroglyphic writing. They developed one of the most advanced calendrical and astronomical systems of the ancient world. These weren't quiet jungle outposts. They were vibrant, bustling urban centers. Think of cities like the mighty Tikal in Guatemala or the artistic hub of Copan in Honduras. They were the epicenters of complex societies with powerful rulers and priests, skilled artisans, and hardworking farmers. Trade routes crisscrossed the landscape, connecting these powerful city-states. To feed their growing populations, the Maya became masters of their environment. They cleared vast tracts of forest for agriculture, engineered sophisticated water management systems, and expanded their farmland, all incredibly impressive achievements, especially when you consider the immense challenges of living in a dense rainforest. For centuries, it seemed their growth and ingenuity knew no bounds. But then, around AD 800, something begins to shift. A mysterious silence starts to fall over the southern lowlands. The grand tradition of carving stelae, which recorded the deeds of kings and marked the passage of time, suddenly stops. The construction of massive temples and palaces grinds to a halt. One by one, many of the great southern cities are abandoned. Their populations dwindle, and their once gleaming limestone plazas and pyramids are slowly reclaimed by the relentless jungle. Archaeologists have long called this period the classic Maya collapse. But as we'll see, a word like collapse might be too simple. Perhaps a better word is transformation. We see the evidence in the ground. Between roughly AD 850 and 1000, in the heartland of the Maya civilization, the forest begins to grow back over the once thriving farms and cities. It's a dramatic, almost cinematic reversal of fortune. So, what could have caused such a profound change? The truth is, there's no single, simple answer. Instead, it was likely a perfect storm of interlocking factors. Let's break down the main culprits. One of the biggest pieces of the puzzle is climate change, specifically, a series of severe and prolonged droughts. Scientists have gathered compelling evidence from a variety of sources. By drilling into the sediment at the bottom of lakes and analyzing the mineral deposits in stalagmites from deep within caves, they've created a detailed climate record for the region. And what does it show? Multiple intense dry periods hit the Maya lowlands at exactly the wrong time, right when the civilization was at its peak. The most severe droughts seem to have occurred between AD 750 and 1150. For a civilization that depended almost entirely on rain-fed agriculture to sustain its large population, a long-term shortage of water would have been catastrophic. Imagine year after year of failed harvests. That's a recipe for disaster, but it wasn't just nature acting alone. The Maya's own incredible success may have ironically planted the seeds of their vulnerability. As their population boomed, the demand for food and resources soared. To keep up, they engaged in widespread deforestation, clearing huge areas of forest to create farmland and to burn lime for their plaster construction. They also drained wetlands and altered the natural landscape in other significant ways. For a while, this worked. But in the long run, these practices likely had serious consequences. Deforestation can lead to soil erosion and the loss of vital nutrients, making the land less productive. It can even, on a local scale, reduce humidity and rainfall, making a bad drought even worse. In essence, they may have unintentionally undermined the very ecological systems that had allowed them to thrive in the first place. Now, environmental problems alone rarely bring down a complex society. You also have to look at the human element: politics, warfare, and economics. The classic Maya world was not a single unified empire. It was a collection of competing city-states, often locked in a struggle for power and resources. Archaeological evidence points to an increase in warfare and political instability in the centuries leading up to the abandonment of the southern cities. We see fortifications being built around cities, and depictions of battles and captives become more common in their art. In some regions, like the area around Petexpatan in Guatemala, the end came violently and suddenly. These internal conflicts and shifting political alliances would have put immense stress on the society. And when you add those social stresses to the environmental strain of a mega drought, you get a multiplier effect. Imagine rulers who can no longer promise prosperity or provide food for their people. You see rising social unrest, a breakdown of trust in leadership, and the collapse of traditional political structures. It's a vicious cycle. So, with all this talk of collapse and abandonment, you might be thinking that the Maya people simply disappeared off the face of the earth. But here's a crucial point. That's not what happened. Collapse does not mean extinction. This is perhaps the most important nuance in the whole story. While the great cities of the southern lowlands were abandoned, the Maya people themselves did not vanish. They persisted, they adapted, and they transformed their society. Many migrated, moving to other areas where conditions were better. In the northern Yucatan Peninsula, for example, cities like Chichen Itza and Mayapan not only survived, but actually thrived during and after the so-called collapse, entering what is known as the post-classic period. The story of the Maya isn't one of a sudden disappearance, but rather a dramatic reorganization and a testament to human resilience. The center of power shifted, but the culture endured. So, what does it all mean? What's the final verdict on the fall of the classic Maya cities? It was, in all likelihood, a perfect storm. It was a convergence of long-term environmental stress, especially drought and the consequences of deforestation, combined with a large, dense population that had become difficult to support. This was then amplified by social and political instability, warfare, internal conflict, and the breakdown of trade networks. In short, the very success and complexity that allowed the Maya to build their magnificent civilization also created deep vulnerabilities. The systems that enabled their incredible growth were the same systems that buckled under pressure. When the stresses piled up, the society couldn't adapt quickly enough, and the old way of life in the southern lowlands became unsustainable. Okay, so we've been talking about an ancient civilization that peaked over 1,000 years ago. Why should any of this matter to us, here in the 21st century? Well, the story of the Maya holds some powerful and surprisingly relevant lessons. First and foremost, environmental change is a big deal. The Maya were brilliant engineers and farmers, but ultimately they could not control the climate. Their story is a stark reminder that even the most advanced societies are fundamentally dependent on a stable environment. Today, as we face our own climate crisis on a global scale, this lesson feels more urgent than ever. Second, complexity has a cost. The larger and more interconnected our societies become, the more vulnerable they can be to disruption. A problem in one part of the system, whether it's the environment, the economy, or politics, can cascade and create unforeseen consequences elsewhere. The Maya's interconnected world of trade and tribute was powerful, but also fragile. And finally, the Maya story is a powerful lesson in adaptation and resilience. They didn't just give up and disappear. Their descendants are still here today, living in Mexico and Central America, carrying on their language and traditions. Societies can and do change, sometimes dramatically. The end of one chapter is often the beginning of another. So, the story of the Maya isn't just a cautionary tale about collapse, but also an inspiring one about what happens when old structures are stressed and how people respond, adapt, and endure. Thanks for joining me on this incredible journey into the world of the Maya. I hope it's given you something to think about. Next time you read about climate stress or the complexities of our modern world, maybe the story of those ancient cities in the jungle will come to mind. If you enjoyed this exploration and want to dive into more of history's great mysteries, please hit that like button, subscribe to EverCurious, and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you won't miss our next adventure. Until next time, stay curious.